The rare silver-sided gorilla, only one known in existence. No. No. No! Sometimes in nature, when Mrs. N is running the world, some weird stuff slips by her and makes it into the wild, and ends up just running around and kind of freaking people out. Hence the term freaks of nature. Some things that slip by are actually pretty interesting though, and make you wonder how they're able to do the things they can. Here are some anomalies in nature that are pretty anomalous. I don't know what to tell you. Crater Lake is the deepest lake in the United States, formed by a volcanic eruption some 7,000 years ago. It also has an island named Wizard Island with its own little crater called the Witch's Cauldron. Isn't that cute? The weird part isn't the lake or the island, however, but this floating tree stump. Do you see it? It's, uh, it's right there. This is the Old Man of the Lake, a stump which has been floating upright in Crater Lake for over 120 years and somehow hasn't sunk yet. It's been floating for so long that the top of it has been completely sun-bleached and the bottom is covered in moss. Now, some of you are probably wondering, how hasn't this log sunk yet? Why is it not decayed by now? What is that thing? Some theories suggest that the erstwhile evergreen was swept up in a landslide, ensnaring rocks in its roots on the way down. Once it landed in the lake, the rocks weighed it down, and when the roots finally decayed, the stump was already so waterlogged, get it waterlogged, that it just stayed floating upright. The only problem I have with this theory is that they say the roots decayed, but that the stump itself didn't decay because of the lake's cold water. I don't know, it's kind of like saying, that car crash wasn't my fault, but I did crash into your car. Anyways, however it floats, for being an old man, he sure does move a lot. The old man freely floats around the lake with its movement powered by the wind and waves, sometimes traveling as much as 4 miles a day. However, let me say this, if you try to tie this thing down, you're most likely going down with it. In 1988, a group of scientists went on a submarine expedition to study the geothermal activity of the lake, and decided to tie the old man down at Wizard Island so not to bump into it during their search. However, right when they tied the log down, the skies at Crater Lake went from clear to stormy at the drop of a nerd scientist's glasses getting knocked off his face. These storms lasted for several days, and only after did it start snowing in August did the crew grow suspicious if the old man had something to do with it. So, they resurfaced and untied the old man, and no sooner did the skies clear up. So take this as a lesson to listen to your elders. Next time your grandpa says that dead snail next to his crappy Segway is alive, he just might be right. Speaking of dead snails and crappy segways, in 1846, while on an expedition in Egypt, Charles Lamb Esquire found what he thought was a really cool rock, but it was just a snail, so he said, I'll put him with the rest. The snail was then shipped to Great Britain for it to be put on display at the British Museum. You know, the British Museum. The only museum in Britain, I guess. When curators at the museum received the snail, it wasn't moving, so they believed it to be dead. So as any self-respecting preserver of history would do, they glued the snail to a piece of cardboard for display, where it remained for 4 years. Until, in 1850, curators noticed that the snail was in a different position than normal, with a discolored trail following it. Hey, did you move this snail? You think I have nothing better to do than to move this dead snail a few inches to the right? Hey, you're the reason our ant colony died because you kept sticking your wee-wee in their nest hole. Hey! Actually, you have a point. Much to their surprise, they discovered that the snail had actually been alive all this time and had just been in a deep sleep. After they discovered this, the curators, and I quote, ordered our friend a warm bath. Who shall say hereafter that science is unfeeling? Upon which the grateful snail, waking up at the touch of the familiar moisture, put his head cautiously out of his shell, walked up to the top of the basin, and began to take a cursory survey of British institutions with his 4 eye-bearing tentacles. This is a snail. After the snail's strangely detailed cleansing, it was then given some cabbage, which for some reason it preferred over all other vegetables. Once the snail was revitalized, it then went back to sleep for 2 more years, and in 1852, the snail was found to have peacefully died, dried up in his shell. And then they just put it back on display like nothing happened. Here it is. This next anomaly, following the trend of being long and slimy, is an American bullfrog tadpole named Goliath. Goliath was found in a shallow pond in Arizona by a group of herpetologists. When he was first seen, however, he was thought not to be a tadpole, but a fish. What makes Goliath so anomalous is that he's over 10 inches long, way bigger than the average tadpole. He's so Bunyan-esque, in fact, that he's actually the largest tadpole discovered in human history, probably because no one cares about recording the size of tadpoles. Here's Goliath next to a banana, and here's him with a Coors Banquet. Oh my goodness. Why are they holding him like that? Now, keep in mind, your normal, fully mature American bullfrog is about 3.5 to 9 inches in length, while Goliath over here is bigger than all of them as essentially a baby. The reason Goliath is so huge is because he has a hormonal imbalance, meaning that he will never become a fully mature bullfrog and will only grow larger until his respiratory system is crushed by his own sheer mass. But what if a baby were like this? Could you imagine if a human baby just kept growing but never matured? That would be pretty terrifying. In conclusion, if you're walking around and see something out of the ordinary, don't be afraid to approach it. It just might be a rare wonder of nature brought there just for you to witness. Or, not. Alright, that's all for now, and thank you for watching. Hey, did you drink all my almond milk? Yeah.